You are listening to a Transreal News Special Report with Brian Rideout. Hi everybody, this is the creator of Transreal News. I'd like to take every 10th episode of the series to talk a little bit about this weird creation that I've made, give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at what I'm doing with it. And I wanted to start with a funny little bit of history. You see, Transreal News is actually a pretty old story. It started back on my Livejournal in about 2005. Back then, I was hanging out with a really fantastic but very weird crowd of people, and trying to make a living as a writer, not yet realizing that the traditional publishing industry was dead on its feet. I could count among my friends a voodoo priest who made a living performing rituals for Hollywood stars, an indie rock star who was trying to cast magic spells with the music he was playing, radical anarchists deeply tied in with Anonymous, organizers for the Occupy Wall Street movement, transsexual Republican gunsmiths, and culture jammers who were trying to wage a war on advertising by creating memes back when memes were still tied into the discipline of cybernetics and semiotics. It was an extremely weird crowd, and one that could get a little too serious. Not that you could blame them. We were all trying to figure out what the hell had happened to our culture after 9/11. It seemed like those powerful elites who had been running our culture and dictating what you could and couldn't say, what you could and couldn't think, that they had been losing power. And suddenly, just as it looked like our society was going to belong to us, they reached out and they grabbed it in ways that we couldn't have imagined possible 10 years previously. Any crowd that is sufficiently obsessed with politics can become joyless and miserable. And they can get themselves stuck in a lot of groupthink if they don't have at least one jester who's willing to poke fun at his own ideas and get them to laugh. And of course, getting a bunch of people who are involved in computers, the inner workings of the mind, complex and obscure metaphysical philosophies, and all that stuff is really hard. But I wasn't going to turn down the opportunity to take up a challenge like that. Around 2005, I decided to try something off the wall and to their tastes. I sat down in my Livejournal and I wrote something called the Timespace Forecast. It was written as if it was a script for a weatherman. Only instead of predicting things like rain on Tuesdays, it was predicting things like Wednesday on Tuesday, or the 3rd century creeping in next week. And as the story progressed, I started adding in other things like predictions of giant Japanese schoolgirls wielding laser katanas fighting giants in Central Australia, or dinosaurs running amok in Toronto. And of course, I wove the themes that our group was interested in a way that could make them laugh. I told a story ultimately of several groups trying to fight the good fight against reality breaking down, but often for the wrong reasons, or with totally ineffective methods. And I wrote stories about powerful beings, a cabal of demigods and demons who desperately wanted to use the crisis to grab control of the world itself, and how, no matter how hard they tried, the sheer chaotic nature of human beings refused to let them win. And as they became more desperate and more draconian, they also became more absurd as villains. As you can imagine, the same themes seem to fit pretty well 20 years later. Now I'm a little older and a little more mature, and I want to tell a better story. But I can't let go of giant Japanese schoolgirls with laser katanas. A world where time gets confused and you can have next week accidentally slip into this week. And I still want to tell that story of how authority seems to be trying its best to grab hold and failing miserably. And how the people who think they're good guys often aren't. And given the internet culture of the day, I felt that making it into a full-blown newscast, not just a weather forecast, would be a good start. And create heroes with personalities and histories that unfold as the story does. As I'm sure you can imagine, it's gone through a lot of changes since I first tried this back in 2005 on Livejournal. It also so happens that I'm also at a position now where I'm trying to make a change in my life. My sons are now both old enough to go to school, and I'm alone most of the day. But unfortunately, I've also suffered a pretty significant brain injury over the last couple of years. I'm no longer physically capable of going to a 9-to-5 job the way I once was. So I've decided to start a business where I can set my own hours and work within the limitations I have. And at the same time, it lets me feed one of the passions I've been able to develop since 2005, and that is podcasts. I absolutely love podcasts, especially highly dramatic ones. And of course, the weirder and more surreal, the better. So I established Stormhead Productions as an opportunity for me to make some money editing podcasts. And along the way, I knew I had to make a few just to showcase my abilities and to build up the skills I had developed a few years ago as a voice actor and a producer of audiobooks so that they were up to snuff with the slightly more demanding needs of editing and syndicating podcasts. It seemed like a great opportunity to go back, grab that 20-year-old story, and breathe new life into it, because it still feels painfully relevant. I also want to keep my hand in voiceover acting, because it's something that I really love, but I have not been able to make into a career. Transreal News is one of the most challenging things I've ever created. I'm constantly having to learn new skills, like how to best thread sound effects into my work. I'm learning a lot about how to make a podcast more listenable as I go. And I hope that you're seeing over the episodes that the quality is improving, and that I'm trying to do harder, more complicated things as I go. A lot of what you're hearing is improv as well. I only have scripts for certain parts of the show. The rest I'm making up as I go. Which has both made me much better at improving, and when I do need a script, writing it in a way that is easy to read as well. I do have a story planned, however. One that's going to take about 40 episodes to tell. I hope you'll keep joining me as I tell it. And as always, I want to thank you for listening. Let me leave you with perhaps my all-time favorite clip from the show so far, even if it is one where the monster noises wrecked my throat.
No, hurry up. I am a very busy man. We must get this done in one take. What? Is it already rolling? Good. Hello, I am Professor Fleischmesser of Minions Incorporated. What? No! Who let Timmy out of his cage? Scheiße, nein! Timmy! Back, I say! Und stay there! Ah, yes, very. At Minions Incorporated, we make you the creatures of your dreams. For guard duty, protection, friendship, or even love. Choose from a range of components and materials, from cold, hard metal to soft, warm, yielding flesh, to something in between. We will create the creature you have been looking for. Contact us by email at info@minionsinc.alty for more information. Good, there. Now I must pack up. I'm late for my D&D game. No, I will not do another take. No, it is not less important. D&D is the very reason I got into crafting of abominations in the first place. My first creation was an owl bear. He's right there in the cage. Hello, Beaky. Oh, he's a decent man. Ah, Timmy!
You have been listening to the Transreal News, part of the Transreality News Network. Your finest source for advice for psychonauts, astral projectors, ethereal jaunters, and people on serious LSD trips. From all of us to all of you, safe journeys. The Transreal News was created, written, performed, and directed by Brian C. Rideout, and produced by Stormhead Productions. It is copyright 2024 by Brian C. Rideout, and is released under a Creative Commons by attribution, non-commercial license. For show notes and more information, visit us at trans-real.stormheadproductions.ca. Thank you so much for listening.